Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barbara Glover, and I work for the African Union Development Agency, AUD in NEPAD. It's a pleasure to speak on AI for peace, security, and development in Africa. I thank UNESCO and the organizing committee for inviting me to share my thoughts in this session. Now, over the next 10 minutes, I'll share how artificial intelligence can advance peace and development across our continent, while also highlighting the risks and the responsibilities that we must manage together. Now, I thought to share more about the African Union Development Agency. Our mandate is to coordinate and execute priority regional and continental projects as part of the work of the African Union. We strengthen the capacity of our African Union member states and regional bodies, and also provide knowledge-based advisory support, mobilize resources, and act as Africa's technical interface with global partners. Now, this work gives us a unique vantage point when it comes to guiding AI adoption in Africa in support of peace, development, and security. Today, I'm going to discuss with you a few points. First, I'm going to talk about technology's evolution and human progress, and then move on to AI as a catalyst for peace and development. I'll also touch on risk and ethical challenges, Africa's context and governance frameworks, and also lastly wrap up with opportunities and a call to action. Now, if you're an avid learner of history, you'd understand that major technological breakthroughs have reshaped our human society and have also opened new possibilities while also disrupting existing systems. So, in the interest of concerns about AI being a huge disruptor, we need to understand that this has been something that has happened with past innovations and learn from them to be able to guide a responsible adoption of artificial intelligence moving forward. I'll give you a good example. In the 15th century, when the printing press was developed, it democratized knowledge. So knowledge was now not dependent on a mouth-to-mouth interaction or word-to-mouth interaction, but it also shifted power in that people could get access to information and knowledge through the printing press outputs. And then when you look at the Industrial Revolution, where there was mechanization and urbanization of labor, there were urbanized economies that were developed out of this. There were new labor reforms, and those were huge disruptions in the way of work as was known then. Moving on to the information age, we have the internet, we have global networks, we have what we now call the digital economy that came out of it, and also in a way disrupted our society and our way of work. And now we're in the AI era. We stand at that threshold where machine intelligence and data-driven decisions can transform how we govern, how we learn, how we heal, and how we safeguard peace in Africa and also globally. So I wanted to share a few insights into the global AI landscape. The market is projected to grow almost fivefold by 2030. And then the United States remains the largest private investor, while adoption across organizations already exceeds 75% worldwide. When you look at these trends and this surge, it underscores both opportunity and also urgency for Africa to position itself, ensuring our voices shape norms, standards, and market benefits. We need to learn from the past, the various revolutions, and what Africa can do to ideally position itself in the global AI era. Why is this important? Working with policymakers, I've come to understand the value in explaining why technology is important as it supports its adoption and utilization. So this analysis is on AI and the Sustainable Development Goals and its potential to accelerate progress across the SDGs, whether economically, socially, environmentally, or even in governance. Economically, you see that AI has the potential to double Africa's GDP by 2035 based on current research. It can boost productivity and entrepreneurship. Socially, AI enhances education, health, and equality, from virtual clinics to personalized learning for underserved communities. Environmentally, it supports climate focusing, sustainable agriculture, and also biodiversity efforts, monitoring biodiversity outcomes and losses. And when you look at governance, AI improves service delivery, early warning, and accountability. So the message here is clear, that AI has great potential to help us to accelerate our SDGs. However, there are also bias and privacy concerns that these benefits raise. And so it's important that inclusion and equity must guide AI design, adoption, and regulation across the globe and continentally. So I wanted to share a few use cases of current AI applications in peace and security. When you look at across Africa, AI is powering early warning systems, um, conflict prevention, humanitarian aid, and cybersecurity. Under early warning systems, the integration of acoustic sensors, for instance, like shot spotter, satellite imagery, and social media analytics to detect risks in real time, is a beneficial use of AI in peace and security. There is conflict prevention projects, like an example in Mali, the Women, Peace and Security Initiative, the use of AI in anticipating resource-driven tensions and support mediation, and also in humanitarian aid, the use of drones in Rwanda, Tanzania, Ghana, as an example, where they deliver essential medical supplies, are also a beneficial use of AI. There is also the potential applications of predictive models to help allocate resources across the continent. When you look at cybersecurity and counterterrorism, AI strengthens threat detection and disrupts illicit finance. Of course, all of this must be safeguarded by misuse. And that moves me to my next slide, which looks at the risk and ethical challenges. So in the use of AI in military applications, it carries significant risks. Military applications include autonomous weapons, and these have threatened to outpace current international law. And they have prompted calls for a global ban by 2026 from the UN. Digital divide is another risk, leaving women, rural communities, and minorities behind. Bias, privacy breaches, and disinformation can also undermine trust and equality in our systems. A good example is deepfakes and the difficulty of the average populace to more and more determine if something was generated by AI or it was actually true. Governance gaps that we have identified means that innovation often moves faster than regulation. And that's why for Africa, a continental position on the various applications of AI is essential for shaping global rules. And so deep diving into ethical frameworks and global governance, what we are doing to address some of these risks and challenges. Fortunately, we're not starting from zero. I mean, discussions of AI regulations did not start with ChatGPT. There have been systems that have been developed. A good example is the UNESCO's 2021 guidelines that emphasize transparency, accountability, and fairness in the use of AI. We have the UN General Assembly that has resolutions that recognize AI for sustainable development and call for capacity building while also addressing military use. The Global Digital Compact that was launched at last year's UN General Assembly promotes universal connectivity and responsible technology development. In Africa, the African Union Peace and Security Council has convened a number of thematic sessions on AI, and also are guided by our continental AI strategy. We have an advisory group on AI in peace, security, and governance, all in efforts to ensure the responsible use of AI in peace and security. The African Union Development Agency has a white paper and roadmap that complements some of these efforts in responsible AI and defining what that means for Africa. I believe that together, all these efforts establish guiding principles, some of which are transparency, fairness, human rights, inclusivity, accountability, and safety. Now I'm going to talk about opportunities and actions. AI can contribute nearly $2.9 trillion to Africa's economy by 2030. With Africa having the world's youngest population, harnessing this technology is central to our prosperity and stability. We need to seize the moment. We need to invest in broadband, cloud, and compute infrastructure in the economies on the continent that are ready to or are able to absorb some of these infrastructure. We need to build vibrant startup and investment ecosystems for the innovators that we have. We need to develop AI skills through STEM education and upskilling. We need to strengthen partnerships across Africa and globally. We need to support homegrown research and innovation hubs. I believe that with these steps, we would anchor responsible, inclusive AI for peace, security, and development in Africa. Now, this is my closing slide where I speak to the fact that AI as a tool, its impact will depend on our values and our choices. It's like dealing with a knife. A knife can be used to cut through, you know, difficult things and cook and do great things, but it can also be used for murder. Or dealing with fire. Fire solves um, basic challenges, supports our industries, but it can also cause so much harm. And so, in that regard, we need to look at artificial intelligence not as a silver bullet, but one that, when designed ethically and governed wisely, can be a powerful enabler of peace, security, and sustainable development for Africa. We need to work together, governments, private sector, academia, civil society, and our young innovators. We need to build an AI future that serves all Africans. Thank you for your attention, and I welcome any questions that you may have.